Gotta look good.
I have to show you guys. The legality of the death penalty has been debated for a very long time. But I'm not here today to try and convince you that it's cruel and unusual, or that the death penalty is wrong and inhumane to do to these people. But rather, I'd like to present a logical argument as to why the death penalty as it is just doesn't work. The death penalty is expensive, ineffective, and random. One of the most common misconceptions about the death penalty is that it is cheaper than just putting people in prison. It costs $31,000 per year to put someone in prison. Yes, that is a lot of money, and yes, the taxpayers do actually have to pay for that. However, it is much more expensive to do the death penalty. In Maryland, the average case with the death penalty ended up costing $3 million. In Maryland, from 1978 to 1990, they spent a total of $186 million for a total of 5 executions. That equates to $37.2 million per execution. At a rate of $31,000 per year, they would have to spend 1,200 years in prison to make up for that. A Supreme Court study found that in Florida, they spend $51 million more per year because of the death penalty rather than just putting people in prison. Since 1976, Florida has had 44 executions. And with the total amount of money they spent on the death penalty, this equates to $24 million per execution. If your belief in the death penalty is based on finances, it may be time to reevaluate your belief. The death penalty is also given out at random, which is why I brought lottery tickets for each of you to have to prove that the death penalty is the worst lottery to win. From 1973 to 2007 in Connecticut, there have been 4,686 murders. Of those, 205 of them were death-eligible cases, meaning that they were the murder of police, murder or rape, murder for hire, or murder during kidnapping. Of the 205 eligible for the death sentence, only 66 of them were charged, meaning 139 of them were charged with lesser crimes. And of those 66 charged with the death penalty, only 29 ever made it to hearing. Of the 29 that go to hearing, 9 are given death sentences. Of those 9, 1 of them was killed. 205 people committed death-eligible offenses, but only 1 of them died for their actions. Now, some people may argue that it should be case by case and based on the severity of the killing. And while I agree, that also doesn't happen. A Stanford law professor gave all 205 cases to 2 students, to 2 classes from top law universities, and they were to rate them on their egregiousness. They were based on 4 factors. 1, the victim suffering, how long they suffered for, the characteristics of the killer, age, vulnerability, the motive, was it premeditated, were they intoxicated, and the number of victims. The study found that there was no correlation between egregiousness and resulting in a death penalty. Of the agreed upon 32 worst cases based on egregiousness, only 1 of them is ever charged with the death penalty. The statistics from a 40-year study show that the death penalty is biased and ineffective. For starters, 50% of murders are committed by whites. However, 75% of death penalty cases are convicted of white people. And the strongest correlation found between death penalty and the case wasn't how bad it was, but rather the color of the victim. It was 3 times more likely for a white victim to be charged with the death penalty. Only 2 states throughout the U.S. didn't show a bias in the race of victim or race of defendant. And one of the worst faults of the death penalty system is the wrongful execution. Since 1973, 258 people have been exonerated, meaning that they were on death row but then were later proven innocent. In that same time span, 20 were executed, and later DNA evidence came out proving that they were also innocent. The death penalty is not fair to U.S. citizens. It does not save them money, but actually costs them millions of dollars annually. Prejudice isn't just a possibility of the death system, it is a fact. It doesn't deter crime, and there is no consistency into how it is awarded. The death penalty is a heavily flawed system, and there is no space for it in the U.S. justice system. Thank you.